I reminisce. Yeah. I reminisce for a spell, or shall I say?
Welcome to the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast, your home for the mindset, methodology, and tools needed to be a successful foreclosure acquisition specialist. And now your host, the Foreclosure Deals Coach, Donny.
Hello and welcome to the Foreclosure Deals Podcast. I am your host and your Foreclosure Deals Coach, Donny, coming to you from the Zen Office Suites in downtown Denver, Colorado. And this is the Foreclosure Deals Podcast, the leading resource for finding, flipping, and funding foreclosures all across the United States of America. I've got my producer and co-host, if you will, with me today, Mr. John Winston. What's up, John?
I'm doing well. I'm a co-host now.
I love it, man. You got to join in. I want you to be part of the action here, all right? So first of all, hey, I just want to thank you, and courtesy of John a little bit, for all the accolades about the show. We are getting a lot of great info, feedback from you, our listeners of Foreclosure Deals Coach Podcast. We are committed to bringing you the top in technology, the top in methodology, and the top in mindset for the foreclosure investor as part of our Foreclosure Deals Coach system. So we got a lot to cover in today's show. We try to keep the shows time effective. We know you got a lot going on out there, so we're going to use a lot of your time. But man, look at the news right now in the foreclosure marketplace. If you've been keeping an eye on that, you've probably seen that the majority of the news is reporting that foreclosures are at all-time lows. But slowly but surely, you're seeing creep ups in different neighborhoods. New Jersey has been my favorite state. I was actually born in Jersey. You know I was born in Jersey? Born in New Jersey, right? And now, Jersey, in addition to being the car theft capital of the world, right, is also the foreclosure capital of the United States of America. So you can get your car stolen and your house foreclosed on in Jersey at the same time. It's an incredible opportunity. Sorry to you people who live out in Jersey. I'm just making fun right now, but it's incredible what's going on there. So much so that some legislation has been passed because the foreclosure rate is so high that it's changing the landscape of the marketplace. And I believe, though a lot of real estate pundits would say otherwise, that the market is shifting and we need to get out in front of it. And that's what this show is going to be about, is focusing on what's happening in the foreclosure marketplace so we as the investors, foreclosure investors, can take advantage of that fact. You can make a ton of money as a foreclosure investor. There are lots of shows out there for real estate investing, okay? There's a ton of shows out there on flipping houses, but there's not anything out there that I'm aware of, and we've looked, that focuses specifically on the foreclosure marketplace and how you can profit from it. So we're going to go into detail about that as we proceed with the show. Today's show specifically is to talk to you about how to finance your foreclosure property. And there's a lot that goes on with financing in general. When you're looking at buying a house, getting a mortgage is very much like getting a financial enema. It's a process, right? And it sucks. It is not fun to get a mortgage. And when you're buying a foreclosure, if you do it wrong, it can be even worse, believe it or not. So you really want to make sure that you are setting up your financing correctly when you're buying a foreclosed home. And we're going to go into detail about how to finance your foreclosed property. So why do you need to finance a foreclosure? Well, generally speaking, when you find a great deal on the market, be it a foreclosure, a distressed home, whatever, you have to have your money in place before you get going. That's one of the leading mistakes I see newbie investors make, is figuring out the financing after they found the house. And here's the process, right? You go to one of those big guru conventions and you're all hyped up. You're like, I'm going to go buy myself a real estate investment deal. You find yourself an incredible deal. You get it under contract if you're really bold, right? And then you're like, oh man, I got to pay for this thing, right? Now, unless you have $250,000 sitting in a bank account somewhere where you can fund this deal, you're going to want to get your financing in line before you get to the point where you start actively looking for foreclosures, which is why we're doing this very early on in the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast. And down the road, I want you to be able to reference this, share this with your friends. If you're trying to figure out the financing, this needs to be an information resource that you can use down the road to make sure your financing's in line. So as your foreclosure deals coach, I'm not just here to sell you on getting our coaching program, but rather provide so much information to you. So much of the misinformation that's out there needs to be fixed up right here in the podcast. I want to get you educated enough to make a proper buying decision on your foreclosure investing, add value to you, because I'm certain once you get going, you're going to want to get high-level support, right? When you get to a certain point, you're going to want to exceed that education. And I'm hoping at that point, you and I can engage together and work together to grow your foreclosure empire. But I want to help you get started right here on the show. That's what the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast is all about. You ready to go? All right, let's do this. Okay, so how to finance your foreclosure. Well, let's start about how not to finance your foreclosure property out of the gate. You do not want to use FHA or VA or any sort of government-backed financing. Now, although the interest rates tend to be the best on those programs, right? And although it seems like that's the easiest loan to get pre-qualified for because they set it up that way, the design of foreclosure investing does not allow for government-backed financing. Here's why. The government, when they look at a foreclosure, they've already got sort of a tinge of dislike towards that property, right? They already took it back once. If you're looking at a HUD foreclosure, you got to keep in mind that was an FHA loan that went bad. Okay? It is not to say that you can't use an FHA loan to buy it. It's just that in my long-term 15-year experience with over 500 transactions, the hardest way to get a foreclosure to the deal table is by using a government-backed loan. Okay, and the reasoning behind that is simple. The condition of the property led to foreclosure. The federal government, if that's what you're using, whether it be VA or FHA or even a conventional loan, is thinking if it already ended up in foreclosure once, it might end up in foreclosure again, and we don't want to deal with this property twice. Right? So right out of the gate, it can be done if the property is in proper condition. There are certain conditions where that's okay. So if you're approved for an FHA or VA loan, and this is the way you absolutely have to do it, I'm not trying to deter you. There are situations where it can get done, but I'm warning you right in advance, this is going to be a much harder process to get to the closing table if you go with government-backed loans. Down payment's low, that's nice. Interest rate is low, that's nice. But along the way, they're going to do an inspection. Well, you're going to do an inspection, right? And that's not typically submitted to the lender, but what is submitted to the lender is the appraisal. And on the appraisal, I can almost guarantee you, like 90% of the transaction is going to have some kind of appraisal condition that is not going to allow that property to go with a government-backed loan. That condition could range. If there's any peeling wood, VA says no. Any broken glass, FHA is not going to do it, right? If you're missing basic systems like a water heater or a furnace. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would I buy a house that didn't have a water heater or a furnace? Let me tell you, some of the best deals I've ever done in the foreclosure investing marketplace were unlivable by government loan standards, right? Meaning a typical buyer could not walk in and purchase that property, and that's why we're able to get such a great deal. See, foreclosure investing is not like buying your dream home. This is not to say you're not going to live in it. I lived in my first couple of foreclosure listings as I was building equity as a smaller investor. The best way to get started may be to buy your dream home foreclosure, fix it up, add the necessary systems, and then resell the property at a profit or turn it into a rental or whatever. I'm just telling you up front, if this is going to be your first time transaction, we're going to have to do some real deep diving into your credit, into your systems, and more importantly, into the house to make certain it's going to qualify for government loans. I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to walk you through that process. Reach out to me at the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast. We can find a time to evaluate that property specifically and figure it out. But I'm telling you, if you're going to do this as a full-time endeavor, if you're going to be a foreclosure investor on a repetitive basis, you don't want to head down this road with government loans. It's just very difficult to get it done. So how do we know how not to do it? Let's talk about some of the best ways to get your property financed. My favorite way to get it done involves hard money financing. Now, hard money is when you're dealing with a private investor, generally a guy who specializes in hard money lending. Let you in a little secret. When you join up with my coaching program, I'm going to connect you with my preferred network of hard money investors that can help you to get that financing done. And they're not interested, as much anyway, in your credit score. They're interested in the asset. So asset-based lending, aka hard money, is one very effective way to finance your foreclosed property. These hard money lenders are looking at this from the deal angle. If the property is at the specific loan to value they want to invest at, to give you an idea, they're generally looking for 70% of the after repaired value, right? So if the property is worth, easy number here, $200,000, then they're going to want to finance 70% of that, or $140,000 of the property. Now, generally speaking, foreclosure are priced well below market. Sometimes they're priced even below that 70% loan to value ratio. You don't necessarily have to bring money down to do a hard money loan. You just have to buy the property right. In upcoming episodes, we're going to talk a lot about valuation. In addition to being a real estate agent, an investor myself, I'm also an appraiser, so valuation is near and dear to my heart. But once you understand what the property is actually worth, funding the property becomes very easy. One of my favorite sayings for foreclosure investing is if the deal is good enough, the money will find it every single time. So don't worry about financing. Not that you don't want to set it up. Be more focused on knowing what a deal looks like. And that's what the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast is all about. It's knowing what a deal looks like. How do we identify those deals? So now that we know one of the best ways to get a loan finance is a hard money deal, you got to keep in mind the downside to hard money is the interest rates are extremely high. Your average interest rates can be about 8 to 12%, obviously double or even triple in certain cases what a typical conventional loan would go at. Why would you put yourself through that? Well, because generally speaking, when you're doing foreclosure investing, you're not going to keep the property very long. Right? So a 12% interest rate over a 30-year period would be insane. And a hard money lender generally won't let you keep the money for that long anyway. Most of the time with hard money, you've got 6 to 12 months before the loan balloons. A balloon is defined as that's the end term of the loan where you either need to refinance the property to a conventional loan at that point, or you need to sell the property. If you're a fix and flip investor, you are planning on selling the property anyway. If you're effective as a fix and flip investor, it should take you 30 to 60 days to fix the property up, another 30 days to sell the property, roughly another 30 days to close, for a grand total of about 90 to 120 days total ownership if you are effective at flipping the home. So a hard money loan is more than sufficient, but you got to keep in mind the money is expensive, so you must be very efficient with your process of getting the property sold. Right? So you're building up to that, right? If you know for certain you can buy the foreclosure, and once again, through our partnership at foreclosures.com, I can get you a list of foreclosures in your area so you can see everything that's been foreclosed specifically near you and know where to direct your attention to find the best deals in your marketplace. Like I said, here on the show, we're giving you the information you need to get started. Right? Next up, I can connect you with the proper hard money lending resources to get the funding on that property done. And I got to tell you, generally speaking, if you're going to be a foreclosure investor, you're going to need to have some skin in the game. Hard money lenders do not like to lend to people who have no money at all. Okay? This is not to say that you can't do zero down loans. It's to say, and I do them all the time, it's to say that you have to have skin in the game, at least in your first couple of deals. Right? So the downside to hard money is you are going to need to have some cash available, though credit is not as important. That is not to deter you from doing it. If you don't have the cash available, there's partnership opportunities. I can work with you personally to help you to fund the deal if that's the way we need to get it done. So reach out. Let's talk about that. We can also get with certain hard money lenders that will lend at a higher LTV, loan to value, but the trade-off with that is you're probably going to pay an even higher rate. Okay, so one way to fund the property is definitely to consider doing what's called an asset-based loan or a hard money loan. Moving on from there, we have my second favorite, which would be private lenders. And private lenders are, generally speaking, the people you know in your network that have a great deal of cash available to it, who might lend the money to you at an interest rate. Don't take advantage of Uncle Joe and say, I want to get your money for free. You should pay for the use of the money. But I've got private lenders I've worked with for years who I can go to them and say, hey, I'll give you a little bit less, generally than what I pay a hard money lender, somewhere between 8 and 10%, right? And I will put the money with a deed of trust and a promissory note to secure the property so there's no risk to the investor, because if you screw up, they're going to own that property outright, okay? So you're utilizing the money, you got a private lender, you work out a formal agreement. I can tell you guys, one of the biggest mistakes I see with investors is when they're doing private lenders is it's a handshake agreement. This is very dangerous stuff, okay? You want to make certain that everything's in writing. You got the proper deed of trust prepared. The property is held in the right entity, all of which is covered in extension inside my Foreclosure Deals Coach program. So I can walk you through all that paperwork, and here in the show, we're going to be bringing it up from time to time. So stay tuned. I will get you all that you need to do a private money loan. But if you've got people in your sphere who have money, that's a great way to fund your foreclosure property. Hey, I've got this property, Uncle Joe. It is worth $200,000. I'm buying it for $140,000. If you would fund the deal in the short term I need it to have the money to either fix it up and refinance it. So now once it's fixed up, conventional financing is very easy, right? That government-backed loan, once it's pretty and gorgeous, not going to be a problem. When they do that appraisal and it all looks wonderful, you're going to walk in and get an interest rate, a refinance done very quickly. But while you're working on it, Uncle Joe's money, that private money, is protected by a deed of trust, and it's racking up interest at an increased rate to what you're expecting to pay if you were to do the property with a conventional loan to begin with. Right? So that is certainly option 2, is go with the private money route. And again, when you sign up for the course, you get access to my exclusive list of hard and private money lenders all across the country that can help you to fund those deals. Sometimes it's all about the information that you have. We're going to get you tons of info right here in the show so you're equipped to do that. Finally, there's good old-fashioned conventional loans. Now, conventional loans are extremely similar to FHA and VA loans, but that has government backing. A conventional loan is going to require probably the highest down payment of the group. A typical conventional finance is 20% down. So again, going back to the example we've been using on the $200,000 house that we're buying for $140,000, if you had to put 20% down on that deal, you're looking at a $28,000 down payment. Okay, and that's a lot of money for most people. So if you're not in a position to do that, don't fret. There are other better options. But shooting straight with you, the most inexpensive money is going to be a conventional loan. Right now, you're dealing with basic conventional rates, which today are wandering in the late 3s to early 5 range. Okay, and if you're going to keep the property long term, you're ultimately going to need a conventional loan anyway. Again, hard money won't let you stay in the loan forever. Generally, a 6 to 12 month balloon. Private money, I don't know how long Uncle Joe wants that money tied up in the house, right? But generally speaking, he wants out 6 to 12 months as well. And I'm telling you, when you're negotiating for private money, you want to tell him, I need this money for a short period of time. I don't want to tie it up on a 30-year mortgage. I want to get it for a few months, 6 months, 12 months tops, and then give the money back to you. So hopefully we can continue to do this again. Right? And that's how I built my relationship with my private lenders. So you really want to present that right to begin with. I can walk you through that process as well. And finally, conventional financing. If you're buying your foreclosure property as a rental property that you're going to keep to provide income to yourself for years to come, you're going to want to maybe buy that property conventional right out of the gate. You're tying up 20% and then you're tying up the cost of the rehab. But the upside is when the property is done, you can refinance it, generally at a much higher loan to value, perhaps pulling all of the equity back out of the property, ultimately paying yourself for the work that you've done to the home, getting your rehab costs back out, and still getting long-term rental income moving forward. Is that not awesome? Like, isn't it amazing to be able to buy a home, fundamentally nothing or low money down, do some work to it, fix it up, put it back and get a conventional mortgage on it and either keep it or sell it? It can be done. The key is understanding the process of how you're going to finance the property from beginning to end. And to do that, guys, most of the time, all you're missing out is the knowledge to do so, which is why this show has been such an honor for me to create, to help people to dispel all the misinformation that's out there in foreclosure investing and show you can do it. You can build an empire in foreclosure investing. You just have to understand the finances, understand the process, and be willing to take in the knowledge that it takes to obtain this skill set. This is not going to be easy, but with the right coaching, the right guidance, it's certainly going to seem that way to you. So there you have it. 3 ways to finance. Let's stay out of FHA and VA loans. They generally will not work for foreclosure financing. Something will go wrong almost in every case. A lot of cases the water's not on, and that in of itself will kill the deal because the bank winterizes the property right out of the gate and generally will not let you turn the water on to do the deal. So let's skip those government-backed loans. It causes all sorts of problems. But then we have hard money financing. Very doable if you have the right network of hard money lenders. I can assist you with that. You've got your private private financing. And if you've got a relative, a loved one, a family member who's got money would be willing to invest with you, that's something to consider. But make sure your paperwork is dialed in. I can certainly assist you with that. And finally, you've got good old-fashioned conventional financing where you walk in your bank, you put an extensive amount of money down, and you walk out with a loan on this property, allowing you not just to gain a place to live, if you're going to live there, or an investment, but something that's going to make you money either when you sell it at a profit. Remember, you bought that house for 140 grand, you're selling it for 200 grand. There's some profit to be made there, right? So you can make cash from these deals. You can make income from these deals as rental income. The possibilities are endless when you start to do foreclosure investing. And here on the Foreclosure Deals Coach podcast, we're going to give you all the details you need to become a sophisticated foreclosure investor. We're so excited that you're here with us to learn about the capabilities out there to do that. So, lots covered today. I certainly hope that you were informed, you were entertained, that you liked what you heard, and that you're ready to take action. If that describes you, as always, I encourage you to head on out to www.foreclosuredealscoach.com. Check it out. And of course, this show is sponsored by foreclosures.com, where you can get a list of foreclosures. Please get my link to it. If you get the link to foreclosures.com from the podcast, you will get 7 days of free access to all of the foreclosure listings right there in your local area. Simply put in your zip code and it will ship you every foreclosure listing so you too be part of the foreclosure investing revolution and make money from investing in foreclosures. With that, this is Donny Corum, your foreclosure deals coach. I thank you so much for tuning in. Keep those requests coming. Keep that information resource back and forth. And if you'd like to have a chat with me, simply head out to the website and we can schedule a time where we can visit together and give you all the information you need to get started in foreclosure investing. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for tuning in. Donny Corum, your foreclosure deals coach. We'll see you at the top.